Expired. Senator Fawcett.
Thank you, Mr Deputy President. I rise to take note of answers by Senator Abetz and Senator Johnston regarding the aviation industry in Australia and the Australian government's response. A lot of the focus today has been on Qantas, and that's understandable. Qantas has gone from the same period last year of a before-tax profit of $140 million this year to a loss of $252 million. Nearly half that, $106 million, was because of the carbon tax. Now, the members opposite are saying very loudly, but Qantas is saying that's not important. Well, if you look carefully at what Qantas said, they said, look, what's important to us is levelling the playing field against the competition, because removing the carbon tax benefits all the airlines. So they didn't actually say the carbon tax wasn't important. What they said was it wasn't their top priority because they wanted to level the playing field against their competition. A clearer picture of the impact of the carbon tax probably comes from Virgin and John Bugatti. They last year also had a profit before tax of some $25 million, which has decreased now to almost $50 million, and of that, 27 million of it, so over half, is because of the carbon tax. And he said the best thing that the government and the opposition could do for airlines is to remove the carbon tax. And so if the ALP and the Greens are really concerned about jobs and the future of the aviation industry, they should get out of the way and let the coalition implement its election promise to scrap the carbon tax. Now, the aviation industry more broadly is struggling, and you have to ask why. It hasn't come about just in the last few months since the coalition formed government. In fact, the Chief Financial Officer of Rex said that the entire aviation industry is financially hemorrhaging right now and approaching collapse. And indeed, we saw Brindabella Airlines go into receivership in December last year, some $7 million of debt, 140 direct jobs lost, which means for its 12 aircraft there will be a whole raft of flow-on jobs in the maintenance and support sectors. That's because the ALP, with their white paper, didn't actually deliver a strategic direction nor an effective reform of the regulatory environment that the aviation sector works under, and it's those things that are helping to create, in conjunction with things like the carbon tax, the environment that is making it so difficult for the aviation sector here to get ahead, which is why I welcome the coalition's promise of reforming the board, and we see that the coalition will be increasing the board to bring skills of aviation engineering and operations onto that board, but we also see the reform of the regulatory sector and that inquiry that's undergoing right now. But it's not only in the aviation sector. The opposition is making lots of comments about loss of jobs in the auto sector. Well, if we look at the time frame for Ford, for Holden and Toyota, it wasn't the coalition at the helm when those conditions were set for the job losses. And in fact, Mike Devereaux, the then GM of Holden, said that one of the biggest issues is when global companies like GM start talking about sovereign risk in countries like Australia. The decisions that the government has made to introduce things like the carbon tax, as well as to have policy reversals on programs that the car industry were relying on, have resulted in that sovereign risk. But more importantly, particularly to the people of South Australia, is Labor's approach that has impacted on things like mining. In August 2012, BHP decided to halt their Olympic Dam development, despite the fact that they know, and in fact even as recently as this year, Andrew Mackenzie, their CEO, has reported in the media of showing the graphs that they say that supply, by about 2016, supply will start decreasing, demand will increase, and the whole copper uranium mine at Olympic Dam has huge potential. Why didn't it go ahead? Because one of the most expensive parts of copper extraction is electricity. That mine has a 100-year life, according to DeMita, and so just when BHP could be expected to start to recoup some of their upfront investment, the carbon tax that the ALP brought in was going to go up to $350 a tonne in 2050. And clearly, if electricity is your highest cost, then the carbon tax is going to make that unviable. So the people of South Australia, as they approach an election on the 15th of March, need to have a good look at what the ALP does, and they need to make a decision that they will not have 4 more years of the ALP at a state level, because they've seen a very clear example of what the ALP at the federal level has done to jobs in this country through job-destroying taxes like the carbon tax and their refusal to get out of the way and let us implement our election
Thank
commitments
you, Senator
now.
Fawcett. Your time has expired.